Hi everyone, good morning. Oops, I hope I didn't shoot you into the sun there. I hope you all are doing great today. It's a beautiful Saturday morning here in Western New York. 8:30 a.m. It's got to be 62 degrees, very low humidity, slight breeze. You couldn't ask for any better. But this coming week, those of you that are west of us, the middle states, you're probably in the heat wave right now because it's coming this way. They're talking about mid and upper 90s, and it's going to be for, I looked at the forecast and it was all the way through next weekend, so it's coming this way. We're going to get out here today, and this is welcome to an episode of David Doing Stuff. I've got my supervisor on task. He's got his breakfast in him, got a walk. I've got some projects to do in the rig, and these are what I want to call them, like convenience items, comfort items. You know, that brings up a point. I'm going to talk about what I've been thinking about the rig. Come on. Come on. Here you go. Go ahead, jump up. Go ahead. Supervisor on the job. All right. Oh, goodness. It's like the inside of the rig is in hibernation. Oh my goodness. Hold on. The fan in your way? He's got to check everything out. So you can see all of the boxes back there. That's all of the brake parts for the upcoming job. And speaking of the brake work, I stopped up a few days ago and I talked with Harry up at the Ford store. So he's talking about doing it a couple of nights after work this coming week. So I'm going to get a hold of him tomorrow and we're going to set it up. He lives, in a neighboring town, which is just right over there. So it's 10-minute drive from here, something like that. So I'll get Dalen to follow me over there and I'll drop the truck off and leave it with him for a couple days to get it done. So I'm really, is the word excited the right word? I'm looking forward to taking the brakes off my mind. They've always been on my mind, especially since that time in Colorado when we were coming down that mountain. And if you didn't see that video, we took a route, and I couldn't tell you what it was, but we ended up going over a mountain pass, and it was a big one. And we were traveling by ourselves. We didn't have anybody along with us. And we got to the top, which wasn't a problem. And then coming down the other side, that's where we didn't have any problems. I shouldn't say we had a problem, but I had to use the brakes quite a bit. I was, overdrive off. And then there were times, there were such tight turns where I had to bring the speed down low enough where I was putting it in second gear. Second gear on this rig, you don't want to go over like 35 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour at the most. That's the engine really revving. And if you've ever taken one of these rigs on a downhill and you're just using the engine braking to slow you down, you might have experienced, it's like, I think it's over speeding, over revving the engine. You hear I did it once. That happened to me once, years ago. I was downhill, foot off the gas, coasting basically, and the engine slowing the truck down. And the mountain was steep enough that the truck just kept speeding up and speeding up and speeding up. And suddenly the engine was like whoosh, making this, very unfamiliar noise. And I think, and maybe some of you can answer this concretely, but I think what it was the engine was over revving. These engines are governed to only rev to like This thing might rev to 3,000 RPM. I don't ever see it go higher than that, you know? And so is that damaging to the engine? I think so, if you do it. And I've had other people with the 7.3 tell me that they've experienced the exact same thing on a downhill using the engine braking to slow and suddenly hearing a whoosh, you know, like a blowing, whining, whistling noise. So what is that noise caused from? What could be doing that? So does the computer do something with the exhaust back pressure valve in that situation? I don't know. Maybe someone can answer that. But that happened to us one time. So back to the story about the brakes. We were coming down that mountain in Colorado. I was actually going down into second gear sometimes and using the brakes quite a bit. Now, when I use brakes in a situation like that, you don't ride the brakes. It's stabs of the brakes. So, you know, the speed would start going up and I would do the brakes to bring the speed back down. And depending on, you know, because there were a lot of turns on this downhill, depending on what the terrain was, sometimes I was doing that brake stabbing, you know, a lot. And we got to a point, we were almost to the bottom of the mountain, and there was a scenic overlook pull off. And I said, hey, let's pull off and stop and take a look. So we did. We pulled off the side and stopped. And I'm in the driver's seat, and out of the corner of my eye, out of my side view mirror, something caught my attention, and I looked, and there was smoke coming up from the back of the rig, and it turned out to be the brakes. And then I looked in the other side mirror, and it was coming up from that side as well. And I jumped out, and it was smoking a lot. And I got the fire extinguisher out, one of them, and I actually sprayed it. The right side seemed to be smoking a lot more than the left. And I sprayed, you know, because I don't know what's going on up behind that rim, you know. So I shot some fire extinguisher up in there. And we sat there. A guy actually pulled over. There was a guy in a Corvette that was going up the other direction. And he pulled over just to ask if I was okay. And I said, yeah, I think I'm all right. I said, how much farther, you know, till we're off the mountain? And he said, oh, you've got one more turn down there, and then you're going to go out into flat. We sat there for, you know, 15 or 20 minutes and enjoyed the view. Lefty got some water, and then we got back in the rig and took off. Now, it's very likely that probably has happened before, but I've never stopped. You know, the way to cool the brakes down is you keep moving, you know, and the air blowing on them, that cools them down. So that's the only time I've ever stopped, like, while going down a mountain. So it could have smoked on us before, but I never stopped to check it out and see it. So that was 3 years ago. I can't remember, honestly, how many years ago it was. It was a while ago. But the brakes have been on my mind ever since. And I've looked at them visually. Every time I'm under the rig, I look at them. The rotors were cut in pretty bad. They didn't, you know, they weren't cracked or broken or gouged or anything. They were just worn. They were cut in pretty good. And Harry agreed with me when he headed in for the alignment. He's like, yep, they should be replaced. It will be good to get that off of my mind and to have strong brakes. So the way I drive this rig, you know, the diesel does a lot of slowing down. So when I'm in traffic around a town and you're coming up to a light, you let off the gas pedal, and this thing, you know, immediately starts to slow pretty much. And with good timing and spacing, you know, I've never had to, it's very rare that I have to like jump on the brakes on this thing. I just drive it kind of, you know, conservatively, and not because of the brakes or anything. That's just the way I drive it. Because I figure a 6-ton object, the less forces that are on it, like braking forces, it can't have any acceleration forces on it because it doesn't really accelerate. But I figured the less of those forces, the better. So I always have driven it to where a combination of engine braking and then the actual brakes to get us slowed down and stopped when we're in traffic. And I've never felt any pulsing or fading or anything. Now, on that mountain downhill, I did feel some fading, and you're gonna feel that. They got really hot, and so you're gonna feel a reduction in the power. So I definitely felt fading there. So it'll feel good to have this off my mind, and I'm glad that I've got, Harry to do the work for me. Could I do the work? I'm sure I could, that we could clunk through it. Just like the brakes are, obviously an integral part of the function of the vehicle. And to do it as a first time thing, it wasn't just pads, replacing those rotors, hubs, whatever you call those things, and the bearings, so it's a pretty major job. Not really though. Could I do it? I'm sure I could do it. I just am way more comfortable letting Harry take care of it for me. Obviously, he works on trucks all the time. Like, I was in the shop when I stopped in the other day, and he had two Ford's trucks, big trucks, like 250s and 350s on his two lifts. So he works on trucks all the time. So for him, it's an easy thing, and he's got all the right tools. For me to get my lug nuts off, I don't have a big 1/2-inch drive impact gun. I would have to use my socket and breaker bar and all that. So just that one thing of getting the lug nuts off, he can bang them off real fast with his big gun, where I would have to take more time. So those kind of thoughts are in my mind when I think about doing it myself versus having him do it. But there are some things that I can do myself, and we're going to solve a problem that got created. Y'all remember when I put in the new diesel heater and it had this new style controller, and this controller does not have a clock. Now, all the other controllers I've had here for years have all had a clock. And so my brain, when I need to know what time it is, I always looked right there. And after I changed this controller, and I'm not exaggerating, I bet you I looked over here 100 times to see what time it was. And I'll probably still do it. So we're going to solve that today. We're going to put up a clock. I've got one that I bought. I wanted it to be big enough that I could see it while laying in the bed. My head is at that end of the rig. And what I used to do is when I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would always have to sit up and look down here to see this clock. So I'm going to mount one over here, right up under the shelf there. That's some dead wall space up there. And if everything goes as planned, I'll be able to plug it in. I got one that's USB powered. I'll be able to plug it into one of my USB plugs right there. Okay, so here's the clock. It's got the time, the temperature, and the date. So these are, all over Amazon, obviously. So my thought was, like, something up here. It has a plastic cover over it still, a protective cover. It's very reflective. The sun is bouncing off of Mom's car right there and bouncing on this and hitting me right in the eye. That might turn out to be a problem down the road. I'm going to have to see if it's a problem. We might have to get a different style. So the other issue I ran into, this has to have a USB plugged into the back of it. It's micro USB. I happen to have a 90-degree right angle, but you can see how far it still sticks out, which means this thing is going to have to stick out from the wall that much, it's not a big deal. Now, it does have little touch buttons up on the top here, so I am going to want to be able to reach my finger right there. So, something like that, I think, is what we're looking at. So I can go ahead. I've found some spacers that I can use. I don't know how many days it'll last, but I can't run it on the battery. It's just there for, like, backup purposes. All right, I got to get some different screws. Be right back. We've just got to measure the distance between our two screw holes, and then I'm going to Sharpie them. And I've got the retractable Sharpie. If you haven't seen these, I think these came from Tom. Thank you, Tom. They seal up when they get closed in there so they don't dry out. Really cool. Isn't the world of technology awesome? Okay, this is 6 1/4 on center. Okay. So we just need to figure out our ups and downs. So again, I think like right there, I'll be able to see it. You know, I don't want it close over to the stove for splatters. You know, we don't want that happening. All right, I have enough room to reach up here and hit the button. Okay, so I'd say right there for the up and down. So let me make, okay, so the top is right there. Okay. And then, so that's my corner right there. Yep. That's my corner. So I've got to come in 2 inches and down 3/4 of an inch. Okay. So let's say 2 inches in. Boom. And down 3/4 of an inch. Boom. And then what did we say for the spread? 6 1/4 across. Okay. So let's say right there. Boom. Okay. All right, those are marked. Let's see how we did. Doesn't need to be much. There we go. Okay. There we go. It's always a little hairy when you're drilling and screwing into the walls of the rig because I don't remember what's behind here. I know there's AC electrical wiring, but it's down here. And then there's some DC wiring for these. But, you know, I barely punched through the wall. Like, maybe the drill bit went 1/4 of an inch for a split second. And the chances that I'm going to hit some wiring is very slim. And from what I remember, the DC wiring, yeah, the DC wiring had full wire loom over it. So even if it did happen to touch it, nothing negative is going to happen. A little bit more. Oh, there we're on to something. Okay. There we go. Bigger bumpers. See if we can get both of these on here. Ugh. There we go. That's not going anywhere. Yeah. Try it with the door shut. That look crooked? It probably is by like a part of a degree. There. Let's see if I can see it from down here. This is simulated. Oh gosh, yeah. Easy. I can see the time, I can see the temperature, and I can see the date easily from over here. Okay, so all I got to do is get a right angle micro USB that goes the other way. Wouldn't you know, I have one, but it points in the wrong direction. It's going left when everybody should be right. All right, let's move on to the next task that we have. So Mom has asked if she could make me new window curtains. My window curtains have been with us for many years. This one over here has some wear marks in them. You can probably guess what these are from. I was always wondering if that's how Lefty irritated that torn toenail back up there at the beet harvest, that he caught it on here and ripped it again. I wouldn't be surprised. And these are really faded. I'm sure you can't tell in the video, but the sun fading on these is tremendous. Like, that's really light right there. And this fabric, I was lucky to have a young lady named Sammy. She sewed these for me, and she said this was like the sleaziest material that she had ever worked with. It was just something I ordered off of Amazon, you know, some material, and she cut it and sewed it and all that, and it's not great stuff. So this one and these two back here, and Mom's got some really snazzy fabric that's UV resistant and colorful, and she asked if she could sew me some new ones. So we got to pop these down. These are all held up with, these are like door springs that are stretched between a couple of hooks. And that was, I got that idea from a guy that I was traveling with years ago. See, they're just for like your screen door. Got them at Lowe's. And then I just drove a couple hooks into the doors. As far as size, they're all good. I don't need her to change the size. Yeah, and you see this spring? Lefty got a hold of it and stretched it out. It used to look just like the other ones. You can see what he did. Okay, Mom's got those. And she does have some, it's like fabric reflectix material, you know, like aluminum foil looking. So she's going to put it on the back side of the two rear curtains. I'm not going to have her put it on the side one here because I'm always, you know, sliding this one over. And it's not really necessary for the side one. So she's got those. She also wanted to take a look at Lefty's chair. You remember she made the cover for Lefty's outside chair. And we kind of ended up leaving the edges unfinished for whatever reason. I don't know. So she wants to fix those and make them, you know, put like a seam around the edge. So I told her, if you get to it, you get to it. You know, it's not a big deal. This definitely has to be, I've put this off because I was hoping I was going to come up with some other solution that's not so easily torn apart. You know, I can order another one of these. I mentioned it way back. They're like $9.99. They're inexpensive. And I need a shoe rack to get my shoes up off the floor. This really helped having it up here. So I think I'll just go order another one. I always trim it because it's like twice as long as this. So I trim it to get 3 levels. You know, it holds 2, 4, 6 pairs of shoes, which has worked out perfect for us. Especially perfect for Lefty for a chew toy. Ah! Let me get us another one. Okay, so there's something that I've been battling with. You can see it right here. I have a shelf right up in here, and my 2 frying pans sit up there. But they always fall off when we're driving, and they fall down in the cabinet here. And that's been happening forever. And I've never been able to come up with, that's way too short. I've never been able to come up with away to keep them from falling. It's a little dark in there, but you can see the shelf and the 2 frying pans. And you see those cleats there. I tried like just running a bungee cord across, but they just slid under it. That didn't work. You know, it's got to be something that can be removed, and then when we're going to travel, put back up. And I just haven't come up with anything. And all I need to do is keep them from sliding off. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to look at. So I put this is a new dash cam. I've been using the same dash cam for years. The King Slim, which is made by Akaso. That's the one I've been using for years. So we took our first drive with this camera the other day. Oh, cripes. Did you see that? That was the memory card. Ugh, it just launched itself. Into the door pouch over here. Thanks, Barry. These are the cards Barry sent me. 256 gig. So this dash cam, I'm not yet sold on it. I've got to go put this footage in the laptop and see what it looks like. This has 2 cameras. It has the camera that's pointing out the front, you know, regular dash cam stuff. And then it's got this interior camera. And it actually has a 3rd camera that you can use as a backup camera. And it came with a 20-foot USB-C cable to run out to the 3rd camera. Oh, I actually have it right here. So my idea was that I was going to use this 3rd camera inside here because it's a very simple little camera. You can see the USB-C for the video out, and then there's a receptacle plug on the side here. So I was going to put this pointing like at lefty and this one pointing at me, but it turns out the angle of this camera captures the whole interior of the cab. I don't really need a 3rd camera, but this is a 3-camera dash cam. I've got it's hardwired. See the cable coming up? If you remember the last camera, I had it wired to the switched ignition power, and it would lose the date and time when it was turned off for a long time. So this one is wired. The way that this one works, it wires to both battery constant and switched ignition. But this has a battery cutoff, a low voltage battery cutoff. So if the crank batteries, I set it to be 12.4 volts. If it gets below 12.4 volts, this camera will shut off. Now my crank batteries are maintained by the Ampostart from my solar system, so they should never drop, and I haven't seen them drop. So this one is wired to battery constant and battery switched ignition. And so far my crank batteries are holding strong. It's not causing a problem. You know, it has the parking feature. You can disable the parking feature, or you can set the low voltage cutoff, which is what I did. So this is a camera that was sent to me. I'm embarrassed to say it was sent to us last year. Yeah, it was last year. We've had it for well over a year. And I finally just getting around to putting it on. It's Viofo, V-I-O-F-O. I'm not yet sold on it until we go and check out this footage and until we start using it on a road trip. And that's when I'll know if it's going to work out for us. So I'll put this in and we'll take a look at the video and see what it looks like. go to Wegmans. Something that's been going through my mind this year, as I come out here to do some work on the rig, I feel like that for the layout and the setup that I've kind of taken it as far as I can, and that the next thing that I would do would need to be a total redo of the interior of the rig. 2 years ago we did some beautification stuff in here, some paint, some backsplash there, heat resistant around the stove. It's kind of a, that I look at the inside of this thing and the way that it's set up and the way that it looks, and it's all kind of a mishmash of over the years adding things and removing things and adding things. And so it doesn't have like a good theme, because it was done by pieces over time. And if I was going to change something now, I think I would have to just take everything down and start over again. And if I was going to do all that, I'd probably just want to do that in a new rig, something that's bigger. I've mentioned before about a medium duty. If I was doing this all over again and getting an ambulance, I would get a medium duty. From all the people that own them that I've talked to, they're so much superior for driving around, for comfort, air ride, air seat up in the cab, just way more power. You can pull a vehicle behind you or a trailer without even knowing it's there from everything I've heard of. So I don't think that I'm going to rip this whole thing apart and start over, because I would rather put that energies towards something else. So that's why I've only got these little things that I'm doing, because there's no major things to do, because I don't really have any other needs in here. The truck is functional. I have all the comforts of home in here. There are some things I look at that I would like to change. I would like to get rid of the fridge freezer and put a fridge freezer upright in this corner over here. That would get that freezer off the floor. And then my sink that's kind of out in the middle here. And I know why I put it there at the time. That sink would be a lot more convenient if it was installed in one of the counters. And the only place that it could really go in my rig is right here. If the sink was here, then the basin of the sink would be down there, and then I could either put a 5-gallon drain jug or plumb a drain out into a tank under the rig. So that would be the most convenient place for it. This is important stuff, and that's a perfect cabinet for it. And I would hate to lose that storage ability, but I would just need to find somewhere else to put all that stuff. So that's one thing that I've thought about, is cutting a hole there and putting a sink. It's not an emergency kind of thing that I need to do. Having a sink kind of up in there, I don't know about it being the greatest, with the cabinet above it, but that's the only place I would be able to put a counter installed sink, is right there. Because underneath this cabinet, that's my outside electrical cabinet. I don't want to have any water draining on top of that there's no way. That cabinet's all full of electricity, so there's no way I could put a sink there. So my focus on the rig as a whole is more mechanical and ride quality than interior stuff. I've got all the things I need in here: heat, air conditioning, and water, and stove, and fridge, and freezer, and television. I've got all that stuff. So there's nothing that... Hey, Left. Hey. And so I'm more than happy to, you know, improve the truck mechanically and the ride quality, because that because that's important to me just as much as being comfortable inside. And I'm comfortable inside. You know, I've got all the stuff I need. Could it be better? Well, of course, everything can be better, but it's not like there's anything that I'm like really lacking. You know. So, you know, this year is mechanical stuff. I'm thinking about putting front shocks on. The shocks that are on the rig right now, I had put on like right after I bought the truck because one of them was blown out. That was the original shocks that were on there. So they're 5 years old. They're the Monroe Gasmatic. You know, they're spec'd for this truck, but they're not like anything super high performance. And on this rig, I think like dog years, like 1 year on this rig for a shock is like 5 years on a normal vehicle because of, especially up in the front end, you know, the weight of that diesel engine and, you know, the weight of the overall truck. I can imagine those shocks are just screaming. So those shocks are like 35 years old, I think, in regular vehicle years. But they've been on here 5 years. So I was looking at some different shocks. If you have put front shocks on your E-Series, leave me a comment or shoot me an email and let me know. Easy job. I asked Harry about it. I said, can I put the shocks on with the wheels down? You know, I did the rear shocks 2 summers ago. They were tough because I had to compress them to get them on, and with the coil over, they were tough to compress. But he said, yeah, he said he thinks it's actually easier to do it with the wheels on the ground for the front. If you've done your E-Series front shocks, let me know how it went. Was it a simple job? Was there anything that caught you when you were doing it? You know, and did you do it with the wheels on the ground with full suspension weight on, everything? Let me know. I would really like to know. Because if I can get a pair of shocks that are better and get them put on here pretty easily, I want to go ahead and do that before we hit the road. I think it would help the ride up there. So let me know, and let me know what shocks you did put on. If you've got a 350 or a 450 E-Series, what shocks did you use? And did you do them yourself? And was it an easy job? I'd like to know about that. There they go. It's a new day. So this is a super edit. We've got an update on the window curtains because Mom went speed sewing on them. Speaking of, thanks for holding the camera, Mom. So here's the new curtains. Okay. You know, I was thinking maybe I should use the distort. This is the one Lefty grabbed a hold of and stretched. This is what it's supposed to look like. Still works. Okay. So these are not the same size. The back windows, they're both the same size, but this one I made shorter so it didn't cover the handle all the time. That was the theory back in the day. There we go. How fancy is that? Now let's get the back. And the back windows, look at this material she put on here. This is what?
It's a Pellon. It's a reflective fabric.
Yep. But it's like, I guess the question is it gonna like get cut, you know?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is it actually fabric? Or
yeah.
It is. Okay. All right, let's go around the back. All right, let's get the back ones put in. See, these windows, the ambulance windows are highly tinted already. So not a lot of sunlight comes through. You can see out them really easy, but you can't see in. They're like one-way tinted. I just made that up. I don't know if that's a thing, but let me get my springs. Hello. All right. There. Look at that. Okay. That looks beautiful. Thank you, Mom. Oh yeah, look at that. Wow. What a difference. Can you see?
Yeah.
That looks great. A little bit of light coming through. And there's a little bit of color match here. See, I knew what I was doing when I painted this wall a couple years ago. Not. Well, thanks for being out here with me while I putz around. And the success rate today, I got the clock on the wall. It's functioning. And that's about it. I've got the memory card out of the dash cam. I got the curtains off for Mom. She's working on them now. I got to figure out what to do about those frying pans just from a comfort level. Thanks for being here with us. Everybody take care. Be safe. We'll see you again really soon. I'm starting to get antsy to get back out on the road. I'm looking forward to being back out on the road during the summer. You know, we're usually more towards the end of the summer going into fall, but there's places I want to go in the heat of the summer, and I'm looking forward to that. You know where we're going, huh? Already. We're going over to my daughter's to pick her up. She has a dentist appointment. So I'm driving her. That's the only time we come down this way is to go to her house.